All right, you guys. Welcome to the very first episode of Music Memories, right? This is where I'm going to be interviewing my friends, and we're going to probably take it right to the beginning of when they were younger, you know, and how music shaped their brains, you know. That's what happens when we're younger. I think music music really shape their brains, you know. Yeah, dude. That's what happens when we're younger. I think music music really shape their brains, you know. When we're younger, I think music really music. Woo! Brains, you know. Music really music. Woo! Isn't that great? Yeah. This is called technology, people. Isn't that great? Yeah. This is called technology, people. Isn't that great? Let's see if I can figure. Let's see if I can figure that out. Let's see if I can figure. Let's see. Boom, done. I had it open on another screen. Dar, but that's just me, dude. I'm not the most tech savvy person around. So anyway, I'm going to be interviewing my friends and people I know. I want to extend this to people in my life who have helped me, like my close personal friends, you know, like Max Reinhardt and, you know, David Lepek and Sheila Sweeney and my cousin Troy. When I was younger, they really shaped my brain with music. And I'm pretty much just a dork with a laptop, you know, and just like everyone else here. But I really found a lot of meaningful and good friends on YouTube, and so I kind of wanted to, you know, to explore why music is so important to them. Also, being a dork with a laptop, I get to create albums when I want to, and I'm gonna actually share something here. I just released an album today, and I'm gonna do the share screen here. Here we go. So it's called. I released this today, and every song is based on a character's perspective. These songs are only on Bandcamp, and it's called Discarded Time Path Obsolete Report. And each song on all of these albums, which most of them are not streaming right now on other platforms, we take it from the beginning here and we introduce characters. And this is just a self-titled album here. And it's really a huge undertaking, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of the album that just dropped today. I'm going to be working with someone who could help me slightly mix better and master. And I'm going to tell the story on YouTube. Tell the story, release the song on streaming platforms. Tell the story of each song, and all songs connect to one another. So if you haven't checked it out, please check out Discarded Time Path Obsolete Report. And without further ado, I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to kick this out. I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to bring in my friend, Matthew. What's up, Matthew, dude?
What's up?
Had a crazy beginning there. I had another.
It sounded like you were at a monster truck show. Echo. There's a little echo on the PA, a little bit too high up there.
It was pretty crazy, dude. But I figured that one out. So anyway, how you doing today? You got a little cold, right? So
yeah, I'm all right. It takes more than that to kill me.
Yeah, dude. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, your earlier memories when you were just a little guy or whatever. How was it that music, you know, influenced you?
Well, it was always a part of my life. My mom would listen to record albums on the weekends, and my aunt and uncles would play records all the time. So I grew up listening to like Electric Light Orchestra and 38 Special, Foreigner, you know, stuff like that. And Air Supply. My mom liked Air Supply. I don't know why. REO Speedwagon, and you take it on the run. I want to get you demonetized. Which is a good song. That song's infectious. It's like got so many hooks in it. You're like, oh, I can't get all these hooks out of me. And so we didn't really have MTV. I remember the first time I saw MTV, I was at my cousin's house. And I saw that we rented on my birthday. My mom rented the music video because it was such a big deal. The Thriller music video. It was like people would go to the video store and rent it.
Oh, yeah.
And we watched Thriller at my birthday party. And then Mom got me a Thriller picture disc with Michael Jackson with the tiger or the leopard, where he's kind of in that white suit. He's kind of leaned to the side,
That's an amazing video.
Yeah, that's my first record was Thriller. Basically,
wow, it's an amazing album, actually. You know?
Pretty Young Things. You got to be starting something. Beat It, Thriller, Billie Jean. That whole album is just like from top to bottom, hit after hit after hit. It was just a hit machine. That's all it was.
Yeah, dude.
And you put that stuff in headphones. I remember my mom listening to Neil Diamond live at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles. So you got all the hits. Neil Diamond live at the Greek Theater.
My parents influenced me with
Hot August Night. It was called Hot August Night. Neil Diamond live at the Greek.
Yeah, I was born in September, and it was all about September Morn with those
Carole
guys.
King. The band, the Carole King Tapestry.
Yeah,
and my dad would listen to I don't know if you ever heard of Eddie Arnold. But no. Eddie Arnold was a country western musician from the 50s, and he had an album called Cattle Call. And he had a song called Cattle Call on it. And it's just like cowboy songs, and he does like yodeling, and he goes, and you hear my cattle call.
Yeah.
I know somebody's heard that song. He did another song called Cool Water. And then I also remember he would listen to Gunfighter Ballads by Marty Robbins. And it has that song, Out in the
love that stuff.
Town of El Paso. I remember every Sunday listening to that, and Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash. He loved Johnny Cash. He liked the song of the Battle of Ira Hayes about one of the Native American guy that helped raise the flag at Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
And my dad was a Marine. And then, so he liked a lot of that, but he also liked the Eagles. Then my stepdad kind of turned me on to the Beach Boys and the Eagles.
Right.
And he liked Paul Simon. You remember that song, Slip Sliding Away? I have good memories of that song. And
Slip Sliding Away.
All the Eagles. And so that's where I got my start at. And then when my stepdad, my stepbrothers were way older than me. They were in college when I was in grade school.
Yeah.
And so I went in my stepbrother Jasper's room, which was still the same. It looked like it was in the 70s, had shag carpet in it. Still had a Farrah Fawcett poster on the door.
Nice.
Kiss posters. And I was like, and Kiss were like comic book characters before they were comic book characters. Or when they were like the first comic book character band.
Yeah.
And so I remember looking at
that Detroit Rock and all that makeup.
Kiss Destroyer, Love Gun, Rock and Roll Over, Alive 1 and 2, Ted Nugent, Cats.
So now you're starting to move into the rock.
I was like, I already mentioned Michael. This is after Michael Jackson. And then like the Who's Next, where they're
So you're about are you a teenager at this time, you think?
No, I was in like the 6th grade.
Oh, you were in the 6th grade.
Yeah, like Cat Scratch Fever and Who's Next. And I just thought it was cool. They're all peeing on this concrete building.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere. And then he had Queen, A Night at the Opera, and Sheer Heart Attack. I don't know if you remember that album. And then he had the one where the robot's holding him in his hand and he's killed them. And they're all like
sci-fi imagery.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of that one. News of the World. That's the name of that album, News of the World. And then he had like all these little 45s with the Thompson twins and Devo singing Satisfaction. You remember Devo? Yeah, they were singing. It was a cool take on the old Rolling Stones song. It was like a punk rock Rolling Stones.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that. I remember Devo.
And Heart of Glass. He had like those on 45 by Blondie. And you remember the song Rapture where she's rapping?
Yeah, dude. Blondie. Yeah.
Yeah, I had all that stuff. And like, I wasn't real familiar with all that. But then also, I was getting into soundtracks. Like, remember the Top Gun soundtrack?
Yeah.
the Breakfast Club soundtrack, Footloose soundtrack.
Yep.
And they had all these like, Flashdance soundtrack was pretty cool.
Yeah,
What a
that was introducing you to
yeah. And
to the concept
so
of
you get
compilations, right? Compilations. That
yeah.
was introducing you to the
I
compilation.
got into like the compilation. I still like that stuff. Like, but then I discovered a band called Kiss and Motley Crue. I remember Shout at the Devil. We thought that was the most satanic.
I was
thing
into
ever,
I was into Shout at the Devil. Yeah,
and they were pretty badass. But you come to find out those guys are a bunch of degenerates. But that's okay. I
Oh
think when
yeah,
you get to be like that. But I like Bon Jovi.
I had that record though.
I like Bon Jovi. Yeah. I had what else?
What up, Roger?
Metallica. I remember when I discovered thrash metal, which was like Megadeth and Metallica.
So are you a teenager yet?
For All at Kmart.
So you were young.
No, this is like I guess I'm about 13. Yeah, I'm 13. Yeah.
But you were already
13. I started getting all that metal stuff.
You were already exposing your brain to all kinds of stuff, right? It wasn't just like the pop music of the time. You started getting into the hard rock.
Oh no,
and other stuff as a
older
kid.
Cousin, my old cousin gave me tapes of I don't know if you've heard of Venom.
Yeah,
and King Diamond,
King Diamond,
and A Merciful Fate. So my mom was like, I thought they were going to have a exorcism for me because
the Satanic Panic was happening around that time.
Iron Maiden. That's why we weren't allowed to play. That's why I never got to play Dungeons and Dragons. My aunt told my mom that it was a cult and people were satanic
heavy metal
in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And then
Iron Maiden, I was a big Iron Maiden kid.
Listen to Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, and then I got what are you listening to? Because he's like 666, the number.
Yeah, that's to scare the pants off of parents, man. Like,
and then I was also into hip hop. Like I liked like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Run DMC, Tougher Than Leather was a good album. Beastie Boys, License to Ill, Paul's Boutique. Which that album changed hip hop forever. Then we had like Ice-T, the gangster guys like Ice-T. Like he literally had a girl in a bikini. He had a girl in a bikini on his cover holding a sawed-off shotgun, a nickel-plated sawed-off shotgun. I don't think you can get away with doing that on an album cover these days. And it says parental advisory on the bottom of it. And then I remember the guy at the tape store let somebody else buy it for me. They said, give him the money to him. And he let me buy Fear of a Black Planet by Public Enemy.
Oh, that's the stuff I got into. That's the hip hop I got into a little bit.
Yeah, well, there's he did a song called By the Time I Get to Arizona because the state of Arizona was refusing to recognize Martin Luther King Day as a national holiday at the time, if you remember. So Chuck D just goes, Chuck D don't care. Chuck D goes right in on him about it. By the time I get to Arizona.
Yeah, that's
so I like the NWA guys, and I used to dub tapes of NWA and Dr. Dre for the kids that couldn't buy the stuff and sell them for $5 a piece at school.
you're getting your cut.
Yeah, I like them too. But and my mom and them, we'd listen to Eddie Money and stuff like that. They used to have parties, and so I heard.
You remember that as a kid?
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. You were a young kid. You were exposed to a lot because of your family. And then, but you were exposed to much more than just the pop music of his time. You started getting into the harder rock away, right? And hip hop later when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
And then you were also exploring what else, like punk and all kinds of stuff, but that was later.
Not
right?
yet. Well, what happened with that was I was still listening to like Warrant and all that stuff, and then I still listen to AC/DC and like I said, my stepbrother had like every AC/DC album. They re-released all their Australian releases.
Yeah,
How the Hell came out.
The Bon Scott stuff.
Done Dirt Cheap, Powerage, which is one of the greatest rock records of all time. Got the song "Gone Shooting" on it. But anyway, and then 1991 came. And I think you know where I'm getting ready to head with this because we used to watch MTV in the morning before we go to high school.
That changed it all for me too.
And I used to watch music videos, and they showed these grungy looking, which later it became called that. These guys just like in flannel shirts, look like he hadn't washed his hair in a week, and they're like singing at this pep rally from hell. And it's a song called "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Yeah,
by Nirvana, and that was just like, well, that shit's dead. I can't. The thing is, because what do you relate to? Some guy telling you about how he was bullied in high school and how all these clicks and stuff are bullshit, or are you going to listen to a guy that's got like $50 million that teases his hair out and sings about picking up chicks and all the money he's got? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, my first concert was in '89. My mom took me to see Bon Jovi with Skid Row.
See, I was into those hair bands, dude.
Yeah.
That was
about 2 years later, I was through with that, and it was like Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah. Okay. So by the time 89, 90 was rolling around, I was dropping the heavy metal, and I was looking more into the Floyd and the Doors and Beatles and stuff like that. But then Nirvana hit, right? And so I was getting into that concurrently, you know.
Now, don't get me wrong, I was still into Metallica and Guns N' Roses, because Guns N' Roses goes hard. That Appetite for Destruction is one of the greatest albums of all time.
Well, I was right there with you. When that album was out, I was listening to that. I thought it was a mix of metal and classic rock of its time, you know. But once Nirvana hit, and once I started going in a different direction, I totally abandoned the hair bands, you know.
I did too.
And I abandoned a lot.
They
even
killed
metal,
it out. You know, I always say Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, they all killed that stuff. It was just killed. I love Bachman Turner Overdrive. I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, you know, another great Canadian band besides, everybody else say Rush, but I say Red Rider. They had a song called Lunatic Fringe.
Red Rider wasn't Loverboy from
yes, they were Canadian. But like like when we had the alternative craze come in, you know, and I remember watching Unplugged with New York. All my friends got together and watched it.
Yeah.
And when Nirvana, because it was just like perfect. And I mean, there wasn't nothing there. That was a perfect, like the way he had that set list and everything. But the thing that Kurt Cobain was great at, and a lot of those bands, they would tell you their influences. Like,
yeah, well, that's how I got into
Kurt talk about how he liked Sonic Youth and the Vaselines and
exactly,
Flipper and the Melvins and Black Flag. So I started like going back and like looking at Black Flag. Then I discovered, oh, that's the guy from Rollins Band. See, I knew him as the guy from Rollins Band, not the singer of Black Flag.
Right.
I didn't really. I'm from Kentucky, so we didn't really get like a lot of people listening to Black Flag in the '80s, even though I know they were hot in the skater groups.
Yeah, well, that's why your story is interesting to me. It's like, yeah, you were just this guy.
That's what I ended up doing, was like discovering, what are these people like?
Yeah.
What do the musicians I'm listening to, what did they grow up listening to?
Yeah. And I had Huey Lewis in the News as a kid. I had that poster. I had the poster.
Sports? Did you have the Sports album cover?
I don't remember which one. But I couldn't get over I Want a New Drug. I thought that was the best. When I was a kid, I just thought that was great music.
I liked Hip to Be Square because I was kind of a square, I guess, in a lot of people's eyes.
Hip to Be Square. And Graphic Man's bringing up Weird Al. Weird Al was fun, too.
Oh, well, of course, I listened to Weird Al. That movie UHF, we used to watch that, and Like a Surgeon, the video, and all that stuff, you know. And,
Like a Surgeon.
Then, you know, a band made it when they got parodied by Weird Al.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so gradually, to the point now, I just listen to anything.
Well, for me, it's still 20th century music. I keep my mind open to stuff, but it doesn't matter.
I've tried to turn you on to some of the newer stuff. There's some bands I like now.
Let's go now. You were talking about one time yesterday about something about a carpet, and you were hanging out in the record, and it was
okay. Well, that was my stepbrother. I'll go in there. It's like you remember the movie Almost Famous?
Yeah.
And the little kid's older sister gives him all her records and says, "Listen to this. It'll change your life," or something.
Yeah.
It was like going through those. When I see that movie, it reminds me of that. Like you see these like album covers,
right? Like
Cat Scratch Fever and Night at the Opera and News of the World by Queen and all these Kiss records. She had every Kiss record you could think of, or AC/DC, Led Zeppelin 4.
Yeah.
Just you got the guy on the cover. You know, they used to call it like a Zoso. Is what I called the album for a long time because it had the 4 symbols on the side.
Yeah,
and it would say Zoso. They all picked a symbol, a rune, and then when I discovered Led Zeppelin and those bands, though, I kind of left some of the poppier stuff behind for a while because I
Yeah,
mean,
some bands that I would do that. I would just go right into their
I've
archive.
never heard anything like Led Zeppelin before. Like when you listen to the album Led Zeppelin 4, it's one of the greatest produced albums I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Like
there's that.
you got the song When the Levee Breaks,
Yeah,
and they record that in a hallway with a microphone above him. So when he's hitting the kick drum, it echoes. And they're in a castle, so he's like in the corridor of the castle.
Yeah.
That's why you hear that echo on the kick like that.
yeah,
And then you hear the plant playing the harmonica on it, and then you got the song Four Sticks where Bonham just
It's that also that 70s sheen, right? It's that that high production
of brown tone. Do they call it the brown sound or something?
Yeah, there's something about the 70s sheen that was just so good, you know.
And then I discovered a little band called Humble Pie. I don't know if you ever heard of Humble Pie.
No.
They have a singer named Steve Marriott, and this little short British guy had the soul of 10 men. Like he's got a song called Black Coffee. I suggest you go back and look it up. And
I think I've heard that. Yeah.
And 30 Days in the Hole. They did a song called 30 Days in the Hole.
Yeah.
My uncle loved Humble Pie and all that kind of stuff. And I heard somebody mention Deep Purple. And Deep Purple, just they're awesome. I don't know what else you can say about Deep Purple.
Yeah. Well, Gene here is he's talking about the Genesis album. I remember getting into Peter Gabriel, so much. Peter Gabriel was a really.
I remember listening to the Phil Collins solo album though.
Yeah,
with headphones on and having like all these pillows out, like I was waiting for that drum break.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, dude.
And I was really into that kind of thing. The Phil Collins is awesome.
So you knew that at an early age. So when you were in high school or when you were around that age, what were you really getting into at that time?
Pearl Jam, Nirvana.
So all that stuff. Okay, so you were probably a little younger than me, and
Nine Inch Nails, the Breeders.
Yeah, all that alternative rock.
Yeah. Right? Then I discovered the Breeders were actually the Kim Deal was in the Pixies.
Yeah.
So I started listening to the Pixies, and Here Comes Your Man. Do 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 do.
Right.
And they have a song. It's a remix version of their song, Wave of Mutilation, but it's the surf mix.
Yeah. No, that's a slow down. There's a slow down version.
Yeah. And then I listened to Guided by Voices, but probably not the Guided by Voices you remember, because I remember the Guided by Voices that was on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer soundtrack.
Right, the Teenage FBI and
but then I got into the other stuff too. But I really liked the Melvins. But I also liked bands like Garbage. This was right after high school. I remember Garbage came out. I listened to Garbage and Bush.
Yeah.
And I had a crush on Shirley Manson. And I listened to, then I got into Marilyn Manson and Pantera. Pantera is one of the greatest metal bands of all time, in my opinion.
So, did you go out to any shows at that time, or was it too remote for you at the time? Or
well, we went to a few. I saw like the Offspring.
Yeah. Yep.
And we saw Alice in Chains with Ozzy Osbourne, but Lane Staley had broken his leg in a four-wheeler accident, so he was in a wheelchair. He performed the whole concert in a wheelchair. They were open Ozzy. And
Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I was about 15 years old.
Who got into an accident?
Lane Staley. He broke his leg in like a four-wheeler accident. Wow. And he was still doing the tour because I guess it was a great opportunity to open for Ozzy.
Oh yeah,
and
those guys kind of were metal.
Yeah,
And
then unfortunately he died before I could see him the next time. But I got more into concerts. Sometimes it was just like whatever some girl wanted to go to, I'd follow them to it, like Sheryl Crow.
At that time, girls were more important, right?
Then I got into a lot of shows though when I moved to Nashville, like 2000. I think it was, to go to recording school. But I worked at a radio station locally around here. But it really destroyed your illusion of what it's like to work at a radio station.
Okay, so you went. Okay, so how old were you when you got a chance to work at the radio station?
I was like 18 or 19.
18. So you went in there like, wow, I could spin songs. I could do what I wanted.
But it's not like that when you get in there, though. You learn the harsh reality about radio nowadays.
Yeah.
It's all
So you,
satellite feeds. All you do is play commercials. They have like discs with all the songs on them that are popular at the time, like top 40. And you have
right.
like DVD, the CDs came in like Rick D's weekly top 40. So
Yeah.
you would just play these tapes and play commercials
Yeah.
in between. And it's kind of lame. And then we did a lot of sporting events, like local high school or like Kentucky basketball feeds. You just have to, all you were there to do was operate the satellite feed most of the time.
So,
But one time the satellite feed went out and I found a bunch of old records and was playing like Dark Side of the Moon and
oh yeah. So at that
Lou
time you got,
Reed. They're like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, there's nothing else I can do." They say no dead air. You can't have dead air in music
yeah.
in radio business. So, and they're like, "Okay, well, just
So you were
don't
in
tell
a
the
booth,
people so
just
much."
you weren't even really talking. You were just like controlling
Yeah,
the panel, right,
yeah,
and making sure commercials were coming on when they were supposed to,
yeah.
and
It's really
stuff like
disappointing. I thought I was going to be like Dr. Johnny Fever in
that.
WKRP in Cincinnati or
So
something.
how long were you there for?
You remember the movie Pump Up the Volume? I thought it was
Yeah,
going to be like what's his name in that? Damn, what's his name? Christian Slater.
yeah.
But, and there was no beautiful Samantha Mathis there to be my girlfriend.
So how long were you at the radio station
About
for?
2 years.
About 2 years. So you stuck it out.
Yeah.
Did you meet anyone at all that was interesting, or
Not really.
not really? No.
Then I moved to Nashville in 2000 to try to go to recording school. They had like a audio recording school in there called SAE. I didn't really pan out. I finished the school, but it didn't really pan out much. But I did work as an intern a while at
Well,
the
what did you
Soundstage. They called it the Soundstage. I think it was owned by CBS Records at the time.
what did you
And,
learn? What did you learn there at the school? Like,
You learn how to do a lot of things. You get to learn how to edit video. You learn how to run MIDI.
yeah,
You get to learn how to edit 2-inch audio tape, like the thick 2-inch tape they use.
yeah.
I learned how to work on a Neve console and a what was the other one? A SSL console, like a 36 track,
Yeah, those
48 track
SSLs. Yeah,
system.
with audio effects and things like that. So were you mixing and mastering and stuff like that?
The big Studer tape machine
Yeah.
and stuff. I recorded a couple. I had my member see what it's like to record in a studio, and I needed and I thought I'd help somebody I knew. So a lot of people just got like local bands. But then I started going to a lot of shows when I was in Nashville. I saw Dave Matthews Band, went to 2 Ozfest. I saw Black Sabbath reunion tour, saw Marilyn Manson, the Deftones, Godsmack, Pantera's last tour on Ozfest, Black Label Society, a whole bunch of people. Tool,
you were into the heavier stuff at that time, right?
Tool. I listened to a lot.
It was kind of like that 90s kind of alt metal sound that was popular at that time, right?
Rage Against the Machine, yeah. Incubus. I liked Incubus. I saw a lot of these bands like there. I saw Roger Waters.
Yeah, I loved Roger Waters' album there. That there was a song called They Were Watching TV and stuff like that. It was really cool, man. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I saw Pearl Jam and Sonic Youth open up for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What year was that?
2000.
So, how did it's hard to describe it without it sounding simple, but why did you get into music as a kid? Was it just more that it was just a release of something, or
Well, yeah. Like I remember listening to the Doors the first time. Like, whoa. I was listening to stuff I had no business listening to at the age of 13. We will go back. I had the Doors soundtrack, and it had like Velvet Underground singing Heroin on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And a lot of cool songs, a lot of Doors songs. I don't know why Oliver Stone picked the Velvet Underground track for that movie, but I guess because it kind of was an underground.
Well, yeah, they were contemporaries, and it had a similar sound, and yeah.
See, people don't realize when the Doors first came out, they were like labeled an underground band until Light My Fire. See, I was obsessed with Jim Morrison back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
I had all his books of poetry. I thought I was going to be a poet.
I had that too. Yeah.
You know, and I am the Lizard King. I can do anything.
I think I read No One Gets Out of Here Alive.
Yeah, Wilderness is a good one too.
I read that book I heard Doors on the radio, but even before I got into them, I don't, for some reason I thought the cover was cool and I read the book. It's pretty weird.
And when I was a teenager, I discovered a book called Hammer of the Gods. It was about Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And it was written by their tour manager. And boy, I wanted to be just like these guys. I don't know why. They were a bunch of degenerates on the road, but all these guys, they're legends. They come into town. You better lock your wives up, lock your daughters up.
Yeah.
You better expect your hotel rooms to get trashed. They come into town like Vikings.
Yeah.
Just pillaging through the village. And, that's a good, they weren't the only ones that were like that. They were all like, was it Joe Walsh? His nickname was Chainsaw.
Really?
And they bought him a chainsaw for his birthday. And he would go in the hotel rooms and like do crazy stuff, like nail all the furniture to the ceiling.
Yeah. Weird.
I don't know why. But then Keith Moon, he got the Who kicked out of every Holiday Inn chain there was on his 21st birthday. And then he tries to dive into a pool with no water and knocks his front teeth out. And they get banned from all Holiday Inns for life.
I think it was just that whole rock star persona, it was sold to us really heavily in the 20th century. And it was something about like just unbound freaking just craziness, right? You could just,
and the truth is nowadays, I don't feel that any rock musicians are the rock stars anymore. It's all hip hop musicians are considered the rock stars now. They're the only ones that talk like the 80s rockers, like I got all this money and all these women.
Yeah.
And so I think they're kind of the rock stars now. Some people might disagree with that, but I just kind of see it that way. I just remember like they used to be monolithic. Like people like Jimmy Page were like these mythical people. We didn't know all we know was pictures of these people. Like remember when we didn't even know what Gene Simmons looked like? Like, what do these guys look like underneath that makeup? And they finally were unmasked.
Yeah.
It was for years. I didn't even know they'd unmasked until I saw their 80s videos.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, put the makeup back on. Put the makeup back on. And kept looking up videos. These guys look pretty rough.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give props to Paul Stanley. He's probably a good-looking man, but Gene Simmons needs to put the makeup back on. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, those guys had that thing going for a long time, But to me, it's like the whole rock star thing. I'm so glad it's dead. Do you know what I mean?
So those guys, they treat them like they would like. I remember what was it Vince Neil said. We would go into town and just fuck everything up.
Yeah.
And sleep with everybody's daughter, and then they would hand us the key to the city, like, hey.
Yeah. So that's what's sold. That's what was like promoted pretty much in society was degeneracy, And the whole,
to be pretty honest, some of those guys like underage women too. And that stuff doesn't fly anymore, even though it shouldn't.
No, man. No.
Like I've heard many things about Ted Nugent sleeping with 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s.
Cool. I'm glad that era has passed, because it wasn't really a great, like, I think when Kurt Cobain died, I think that was one of the last, for me, was like a true, like, naive rock star person.
Well, the great thing about Nirvana and then what you discover about punk rock is like this DIY thing. People were making fanzines. They were bringing it. They were recording their own albums on 4-track recorders and set them out the trunk of a car. Black Flag did that. Black Flag had a lot of success just promoting their stuff on their own. They didn't get no help from any record label, so they made their own record label.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
nobody was going to hire these people. There was any A&R guy going to go, oh, we got to get this Black Flag signed to Elektra Records. That wasn't going to happen. You're going to see Black Flag. Oh, we got to get that major label release so you can have I know they had a couple videos on MTV back in the 80s.
Yeah, the DIY attitude, just in general, is the best way, and staying true to yourself. On their
own. Like Jim was talking about LA. A lot of these guys had to do it on their own. The Germs.
Yeah.
They did it on their own. They had limited success. I would argue, a lot of those bands didn't have a lot of success until after a lot of the guys were dead.
Yeah.
But a lot of those people, they give a lot of lip service to them guys. Like Well, hell, Kurt Cobain even had Pat Smear as the rhythm guitar player in his
Yeah.
band
Yeah.
because he loved the Germs.
Yeah. Once
And
he made it there. Yeah.
yeah, but then you have like the British punks. See, I discovered that stuff kind of much later in life, but I love the Damned, the Sex Pistols. People say, "Oh, they were just a created band." Okay, yeah, Malcolm McLaren put them together, but he couldn't control them either.
Right.
Johnny Rotten says, "Nobody creates me; I am me," and I would argue that Johnny Rotten made that group with his snarly attitude. He wrote all the lyrics.
Yeah.
I had all these disaffected youth in Great Britain at the time that were just sick of the monarchies. They were sick of the conservative government there. They were sick of Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were just like, screw all y'all. I hope we burn the whole system down. And you had,
Yeah. They
I
helped.
would argue they're probably not the most successful band because you had the Clash. But then I started discovering bands like Echo and the Bunnymen and the Cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Cult is one of the greatest bands of all time. That's a
Well,
hit.
that guy's voice was incredible, right? You know,
Yeah.
Fire.
Love Removal Machine. I love that song, Love Removal Machine. And,
Yeah.
but they
I
had a
mean,
song on, and the Cure were amazing.
yeah.
Depeche
Well, it
Mode.
just goes on and on and on. And the thing about the Sex Pistols was if you listen to Nevermind the Bollocks, it almost has a production like a Motley Crue album or something, you know, but it predates that, but it was the attitude that helped shape.
And you know, it's
punk,
kind
or
of tame by
popularized it.
today's standards. It's kind of tame. But if you have to put your hat on and think, what did people think of this in 1977? Like, what?
Yeah.
They were like, what the hell is this?
You know, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Clash were just, I'd say the Clash is probably the most successful English punk band of all time. They were able to get mainstream success in the 80s before they imploded because they had their own problems. They started resenting each other, which is something you hear about a lot in these bands. But what I was talking about, like discovering bands that bands like,
Yeah.
I remember getting the Crow soundtrack and hearing a song called Burn.
Yeah.
No, that was not it. I can't remember the name of the song. The Nine Inch Nails has a cover song of a Joy Division song, and I'm like, what is this song? I thought it was a Nine Inch Nails song, and then they're like,
there was that movie Heat. Remember that? And
yeah. Well, I looked at the like who had wrote it. It wasn't Trent Reznor. It said Ian Curtis. I said, who's Ian Curtis? So I looked up who Ian Curtis was. I was like, well, who's Ian Curtis? Then I discovered Joy Division, and then I realized that Joy Division was New Order.
Yeah, I had their box set there.
Joy Division became New Order.
Right.
And
Ian
killed it too then. Yeah, because Ian Curtis self-deleted himself is the way we'll put it on here because we can't use that word.
But that guy,
and I remember the day Kurt Cobain did it. Now we can debate whether he did it or not. I'm not here to do that. I stand in the camp that he did it because if you read anything or know anything about Kurt Cobain, he had a rough time as a child. He had some bipolar disorder. He had drug addiction.
Yeah.
And I think that all that, and maybe even his wife, maybe she did drive him to do it. I don't think she did it.
Right.
But I mean, he was not a very happy person, Aaron. You know that.
Right. Yeah.
But I've told you that story, right? I was getting ready for school, and Kurt Loder came on. It was like MTV News. You know how it like that NEWS MTV News.
Yeah.
Like with a typewriter font. And he said the body of Kurt Cobain was found at his Seattle home today or yesterday night or whatever. And they think it was a self-inflicted, gunshot. And I called my buddies. I said, I'm not going to school today. We all didn't go to school. We drove up to the park and just sit there and listen to Nirvana all day and smoke weed.
Yeah.
Till school was over. And because
I remember where I was when I heard that,
There were girls at school that I heard that were crying. We had a girl with us, she was crying. And he touched a lot of people. Like, the way my mom's generation were all influenced by people like John Lennon.
Sure.
And I would argue that Kurt Cobain was the John Lennon of my generation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I felt about it,
And he spoke for a lot of kids that were disaffected, that had been bullied, that were latchkey kids that and I grew up with people like that were children of divorce, and like their dad would get divorced from their mom, and then he would start a whole new family and forget about his kids.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we were like the last lost generation. Before there were helicopter parents, we were like free range kids. Here's the key. We'll put it under the mat. Here's $20. Order a pizza.
And now it's
at work.
it's
and
a
now
by
it's helicopter parents.
it's a bygone era, where
Be home when the street light comes on.
yeah,
No cell phones. There was no way of keeping track of anybody.
right.
They would just have to go around the neighborhood and look, and they didn't realize how far we were going to go. We would go and we were like, stand by me. We'd go, hey, let's go see if there's a dead body down by the railroad tracks. And here we'd go down the railroad tracks,
Yeah. Yeah, it was different then, So it's in a way, it's like I was almost criticizing the idea of the rock star and, what it meant to us as younger people, and when it ended up being a real facade, it ended up being really stupid, but yet the production of the albums, what the bands had to go through in order to be able to record, and when they were hot, when they were recording, they were great while they were recording.
And I would argue nowadays it's easier for a band to get recorded than ever. You got Pro Tools.
Yeah, it's almost like because of the
SoundCloud, Bandcamp. I mean, anybody can release an album. YouTube. I've seen these bands are just putting their albums on YouTube.
Yeah,
like you do with yours. And but I'm always discovering new music. Like it never goes away. Like maybe my musical taste will change, but like in my 20s, I maybe listen to John Lennon more.
Right.
But now that I'm in my 40s, almost 50 years old, I think George Harrison's the best Beatle.
Right. Yeah.
It's just kind of weird. I don't know why. I guess because when you're young, you're kind of rebellious, and it's kind of like Brando said that movie, The Wild Ones. They're like, "What are you rebelling against, son?" And Brando says, "What do you got?" So when you're
also a movie guy, and so do you realize now that a lot of movie scores is what helped influence you to like the movie?
Yeah, especially John Williams,
right?
When he did it's like the Star Wars soundtrack, but not just them, but did you remember the movie Blade Runner?
Yeah, man, that's like one of my favorite.
Evangelist or whatever his name was did the soundtrack for Blade Runner.
Yep.
And then you get all these cool soundtracks.
Now you can make these sounds so easy, and so I think people just crave that 20th century vibe the most. Do you know what I mean?
What about music themes? Themes from what about sitcom and movie and TV show themes?
Yeah, and
remember Star Trek? They had that theremin. He's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this once a week, I think, and I'd rather just interview one person, and it seems like Matthew just had to take a break there. But
here, I just had to turn the camera off for a minute.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I had to pick my nose.
But I plan on doing this once a week and just have a natural conversation about music and what it meant to be a kid in the 20th century.
Oh, how about that one comment? He says heavy metal soundtrack because I want to talk about that.
Okay. Hey, Card Shops here. Reality, not realty.
I got to watch heavy metal when I was 10 years old. I had no business being able to watch that.
Thank you.
And but I remember the soundtrack. You had Sammy Hagar singing the song Heavy Metal. And then there's a Space Truckin' by Deep Purple was on there. Yeah, that's a great soundtrack. And I can't remember the song, but the part in the movie where they're on the airplane and you get all those and they're in World War II and that B-17 bomber and all the dead bodies start coming back to life. And I can't remember the name of that song they play in that scene, but it's so awesome. And then the heavy metal soundtrack, it's one of those that stands out. And they had another movie. I can't remember the name of it. It was animated, but the guy was like a drug dealer that was selling drugs to musicians. And then he decided to make his own album. They had songs by Bob Seger in it. And I can't remember the name of that. I can't remember the name of that movie though, but I remember it. I don't know. Maybe Gene can remember the name of that one. I think it was the same guys that did Heavy Metal. And but yeah, Heavy Metal was just one of those movies. Like the actual magazine came to life, you know. And we're not talking about Heavy Metal, the music. We're talking about the.
Now, should I invite him? I don't know if we're friends on IG.
I know him. I know Gene. He's my Canadian friend.
You want to send him the link on IG?
If he wants to come on.
If he wants to come on, I don't want it to be all too crazy, but my idea was just to interview one person.
One-on-one, just do it like that. It's
the easiest way, huh? It really is the easiest way.
Hey, now I tell you what though, you can contact Gene. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's from Canada. We talk to him all the time. He's a big Vampirella fan like me.
Yeah.
And he likes Space Ghost. And if he's got a musician's background, you need to have him on. That would be good.
I would love to have Gene. That's how you pronounce his name?
Gene, yeah.
Yeah, Gene.
Mellow.
So yeah. So we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon here because you have things to do, and I kind of want to keep it under an hour. But anything else you would like to add?
Well, we got a co-op claim sale at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, so on your channel,
wants to come on, I have some Savage Sword of Conan I'm going to be selling, and Adam Hughes stuff for $2.
In the description, I have Matthew's, channel,
and I have some older stuff too.
You want to sub up Matthew? He's got a great show called Bad Cinema, and now he also has Good Cinema. Right? You have both.
Oh yeah, and we're going to be doing Invasion USA Monday, and Thursday on Good Cinema we're going to be reviewing Jaws because it's summertime, so we got to get Jaws in there.
Yeah, I started Invasion USA. That's a Chuck Norris movie, and I've never seen it before.
The entire army of terrorists. It's beautiful.
It's pretty crazy. I got to the scene where he opens this. I don't know how to say it. I'll wait for your show.
You were the one where are you looking for this? They try to put a briefcase bomb.
Just had he opened the guy's pants.
Yeah. It was
so unnecessary.
He's like, "Are you guys looking for this?" And he drops that bomb right in between them.
Yeah. and then the girl doing coke,
Yeah, that movie's wild.
I just can't believe. I'm like, that was just so unnecessary. The whole thing was unnecessary. Could you imagine doing that to someone? And then
all these Iranians and commies, back there when they had the hostages, and so we're coming right out of that Iran hostage problem, and all that stuff, and we're still fighting the commies, man. You remember the movie Red Dawn, man? We got to
I remember Red Dawn.
The commies before they get us. It's all propaganda, it's all propaganda, but it's okay. It's back
then, it's like I wasn't even aware of like the synthesizers and stuff like that would help create the mood and help get you into the like Breakfast Club. I was aware, of course, of the soundtracks, but I'm finding out later like stuff that I truly loved, like Edward Scissorhands and Blade Runner and things like that. It was because of the music, really. That I like the visuals too, but it was because of the music that I.
Well, the movie Death Wish 2. You know who did the soundtrack for Death Wish Part 2, don't you?
No.
Jimmy Page.
Whoa, dude! No, I did not know that. So here is something that I released today. It's called Discarded Time Path Absolute Report. I put the link in the chat. If you guys want to check it out, I would appreciate it. Every song, I don't know why I have this stupid bio describe. I really suck when it comes to technology, But these are 23 brand new songs I just dropped today, and every song is from a character's perspective in this like sci-fi comic book world. And I've been doing this for years now, and I'm going to go back to the original ones here and redo them. Hopefully I'm working with someone who could help me mix them a little better and master them, and then put them on streaming platforms. And every week I'm going to go on YouTube and tell the story, read the lyrics, and then release the song. And why am I doing this? Because I'm freaking crazy, I think, you know. But
Well, you got to get it out there somehow. I applaud you.
I'm
for
not
doing
doing it for any other reason because I want to, but it's such a time consumption thing. But I like it. And
Well,
I
it's
actually,
great. You just want to share it with the world. You know, I don't blame you.
I just having fun with it, and I'm very heavily influenced by Guided by Voices and Velvet Underground, uh, Beatles and Bowie and Ween and stuff like that, and some synth wave and all those '80s wave. I got to change this though by the Discovery. $4.05. I didn't mean to do that, but yeah. Hey, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys checking it out, Gene. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm just a little bit psycho, Kirby. I could probably get Kirby on here too. But that's it, you guys. So that dropped today. Please check out Discarded Time Path Obsolete Report. Tomorrow, I'm going to do the listening party, and I'm going to be showing. I'm gonna mute myself and just we'll have a big listening party on Bandcamp that's gonna simultaneously stream to Facebook and YouTube, and I'm gonna act like a goof and just show stuff.
I think, man, you need to collaborate on a concept album about Bigfoot.
Yeah, dude, I would love that. I would really like that. And eventually, I want to turn my world into a comic book, but I gotta, I gotta get the right artist and all that stuff. So you never know what will happen, what will come from all this.
Well, we know a few artists at this point. Maybe we can find somebody to help you. Like maybe we get Higgy to do it.
I would love to collaborate. Yeah, for me, it's just fun, But I am going back to the beginning when I first started and redoing a lot of the songs and making them better. Because as long as I could listen to them, like I listened to this, MP3 player, and I mix and master to the point where I could listen to this. But I'm just a laptop hack, and so I need to get a real guy with a real system. And then he's doing the slight adjustments like in EQ and compression and making it right, and then making it so that it'll stream right everywhere on all the different speaker systems and stuff like that.
They say I always listen to it on some headphones or in a car.
But I love the songs in here. I listen to this MP3 player all the time, so it's pretty cool. Cool, you still have a bass and amp. That's awesome, dude.
And I got some recommendations for anybody out there that wants to listen to some newer music. They're not that new, but like Wet Leg. They're from the Isle of Wight in England. And they just got a new album out. And they got a song called Catch These Fists. It's pretty cool. It's 2 girls and 3 guys. And the lead singer is pretty good looking. But it's an indie band. They're pretty cool. And there's a punk rock band from Australia called Emil and the Sniffers.
Is this Wet Leg?
Yeah, that's them right there. And I saw Emil and the Sniffers. They got a blonde-headed lead singer, and she is like, if Iggy Pop was a woman, that would be, I think Iggy Pop's her spirit animal for sure.
And what band is that?
Emil and the Sniffers. AMYL and the Sniffers.
AMYL and the Sniffers. Okay.
Yeah, there they are. She's from Australia.
Emil and the Sniffers.
Kirby knows what I'm talking about. Wet Leg. And then after this, they've been around for a while, but they've been singing Australia for a while. But they finally broke through here with their latest album. And the third band I would recommend is they have an American singer who he's got dual citizenship though. They're from Sweden. They're called the Viagra Boys. And they're so awesome. You got to
you showed me some the Viagra Boys here.
You got to look up the song Research Chemicals. It's totally awesome.
And this guy doesn't care about his weight, No.
He's tatted up everywhere. He's got a tattoo on his forehead.
And he's got a beer gut in hell.
He doesn't care. And they got like one guy looks like they just pulled him out of a heavy metal band, and you got another guy that looks like he's out of a synth pop band playing keyboards. So you got a lot of different styles. They even got a guy playing the trumpet sometimes.
Yeah.
So they're kind of cool. They got like a punk rock aesthetic to them. So there's the 3 that I've been listening to a lot lately. And I know people probably don't really like country music much, but if you get into like, I'm talking about actual good country music, Chris Stapleton. He's probably one of the most talented. He's from Kentucky. He's one of the most talented musicians I've ever heard.
Stapleton.
It's more of a, it's like a blues rock type thing. Stapleton, Chris Stapleton.
Hold on a second.
If you get a chance to listen to his new album or his latest album, yep, he's from Kentucky. He tours with his wife who sings with him. He's like around my age.
Cool.
And I don't really like listen to a lot of country, but I'm telling you, he's different.
I like old country.
Yeah. He's got kind of an old school, like outlaw country feel to him, mixed with a lot of blues rock influence.
Yeah.
And he's one of the best guitar players out there right now. So check him out. Do yourself a favor and listen to him.
Cool. Awesome, my man. I really appreciate you being here. And we're gonna call it a day here. I'm just gonna bring up this screen again. It's Psychotronic Squirt Gun here, and I'm not really streaming on other stuff yet, but I will be. And with that, you guys, so please check out my Bandcamp, support me there, and as I get better, I'm also going to bring in a mixer. I'm going to get some software where I could show you I could show you what's on the desktop and open programs like that. Maybe a mixer and master can show me what I'm doing wrong and stuff like that. It'll be fun. It'll be a slice of life, a slice of Aaron's music life here. But stay safe. Thank you so much. We're out of here. Thank you for being my guest, Matthew. And next week, I should have Jim back for part 2 of memories of LA punk rock scene or whatever.
All right.
Deuces.
Peace out. Always.
See you on the next one.